Hi, friend. Well, did you know that your core beliefs shape everything in your life? How you see yourself, how you handle challenges, and even the opportunities that you say yes or no to. It's like wearing an invisible pair of glasses that you see the world through. It filters your life. But the good news is that you can change it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive in. So first, I want to share with you my story about core beliefs. So I have had a core belief for years, and I know where it came from. I've had many years of therapy, and so I recognize where this core belief came from. But basically what it is what it was. This is no longer my core belief because I've been able to change it, and I'm going to help you do that today too. So my core belief had always been that I simply wasn't enough. And I had a statement that I used to back that up in my life. And here was the statement. If your mother doesn't love you enough to keep you, how will anyone else ever love you? Isn't that sad? Really is. And when I think about that little girl, that 10-year-old girl who was taken away from her biological mother due to abuse and neglect and placed in foster care, that was when that core belief developed. Like I said, I've had a lot of therapy. I've worked through that. But for years, that continued to be my core belief. But that all changed one day in a therapy session when this therapist asked me to, she had a really cool exercise. She had all these cards with different words on them. And she said, go through this deck of cards and put out any of them, pull out any of them that you feel describe what you're experiencing. And we had been talking about core beliefs. And so I started pulling out all these cards, and they were about belonging and disconnection and negative self-talk and things like that. Maybe you can relate to some of those things. And I looked at those and we visited about them a little bit. And she said, take a picture of the cards that you have taken out. Take a picture on your phone. And so I did. And as I reflected on that in the days to come, what I realized is that no longer described me. That was not my core belief about myself anymore. And the reality is I had lots of evidence in my life to say, that's not who I am. I am not this 10-year-old girl or even this 65-year-old woman who isn't loved. The statement was, if your mother can't love you enough to keep you, how will anybody else ever love you? But the reality is I have lots and lots of love in my life. I have an amazing partner of almost 40 years. I have wonderful children that love me, and they tell me that, they write that in cards. I just reviewed some of those cards, the beautiful statements that they've written to me. I have other family and have really good friends. And so I am loved. And realizing that helped me to see that I am enough. Okay, so that's how I was able to change my core belief. And I want to share with you some ways that you can work on changing your core belief. If, like me, it was a negative core belief that really didn't fit your life anymore, there are things you can do and ways you can change it. So I'm going to share 5 of those things with you right now. So changing our core beliefs takes awareness, repetition, and internal action. All right, so the first step that we can take is to identify that core belief. And in my story, that's what I did. And I'd actually done that years ago when I was taking my counseling classes for my licensed professional counseling degree. And that was one of the exercises that a professor had us do. And of course, I said, I'm not enough based on what had happened to me as a child. I still believe that even though I was well into my 50s. So we need to identify what that core belief is. And we can think about the negative thoughts around that and how often we repeat that to ourselves. And this might not be something that we are consciously saying all the time, but it's back there in our subconscious, in our, in that negative critical voice. So you might be saying things to yourself like, I'm not good enough. That's what mine was. I'm just not enough. I'm not lovable enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Whatever that core belief may be. And think about, is that really true? And how often do we repeat that to ourselves? And then the next thing that we need to do, step 2, is to challenge that core belief and reframe it. That's what I did when this therapist had me do this exercise with the cards. I was able to really look at that and say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't describe me anymore. So I challenged that and I reframed it based on all the evidence I have in my life today that I really do have a lot of love in my life. So how can you replace or reframe your core belief? So what if you say, I always fail? Sometimes, that could be a core belief, or I'm such a loser. So a way to challenge or reframe that is to think about times where you have won, where you have done things well, where you have succeeded in your life. So that's a way to challenge and reframe it. And then you can start replacing that negative belief with a new statement. I am enough. I am lovable. I can do things right. I'm not a loser. And then the third step in changing our core belief is to take action, to align our action with what our new core belief is. And so we want to act as if this new core belief was truly who we are and truly how we viewed ourselves. Now, for me, I've had a lot of therapy and this shift happened pretty quickly. But if this is kind of hard for you to do and it's kind of like, oh, I'm just saying this to myself, but I don't really believe it, repetition can really help us to change things in our mind. That's actually how we change those pathways in our mind. And those pathways really are, things that we've believed for years and years. And so we need to put a new belief in there. So we need to act and we need to repeat our new core belief. And step number 4 is that we need to reinforce and repeat it. Again, that changes that pathway in our brain. And just like what I did is I reinforced that belief when I read over, we're doing some decluttering, and so I'm going through papers and stuff, but I had a lot of old cards. I save the cards that people give me. I really like the cards I have. So I read through the cards, and especially the things that my children had said to me. They have said such beautiful things in birthday cards and Mother's Day cards. And so I read over those. And so that helped to reinforce this new core belief that I am lovable, that I do have lots of love in my life, and I am a lovable person. So just continuing to repeat that. And then also to think about ways that that shows up in your life today. So how does people loving me show up in my life currently? Well, I could list many things here. I won't. But to go back and find the evidence for the new core belief, that's reframing it. That's shifting it and changing it in our brain. And then the last thing that we want to do is to surround ourselves with support. Having people that care about us, making connections, recognizing that they do value and care for us is so important. So surround yourself with those people. First, it's just recognizing who those people are, and then spending time with the people that really do love and support you. Okay, I hope this video has been helpful for you today. If you like this, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and share this with someone if you think it would help someone on their journey with their own core belief.